honest, has emerged, proving how Caitlin Clark got hurt this 2025 season. Guys,
Caitlin Clark has officially been placed on the injured reserve list, and newly surfaced footage sheds light on the troubling reasons why. It highlights repeated, deliberate contact, a pattern of targeted aggression, and referees seemingly ignoring blatant fouls, raising serious concerns about systemic targeting. The evidence is deeply troubling and points to broader issues within the WNBA's handling of its biggest star. So the question now is, what consequences should players and referees face for allowing this behavior to go?
Scenes. So pretty much the only information that we have so far about the injury itself is from Chloe Peterson. And she said Caitlin Clark's left quad strain is a new injury, I'm told. It is not related to her left quad.
Let's be clear. Caitlin Clark's quad injury isn't just bad luck or normal wear and tear. It's the predictable outcome of nearly 2 years of unchecked physical play, aggression that the WNBA has repeatedly failed to address. In fact, the league's inaction has sent a message that this kind of behavior is acceptable, if not quietly condoned. The footage we're about to examine doesn't just tell a story, it shows a disturbing pattern. This isn't tough defense, it's targeted harassment, and the league's silence in the face of it has been nothing short of alarming.
I know afterwards, we got a message that she had something going on with her leg, and they were getting an MRI, and then we got the yesterday. Was it after the Liberty game on Saturday? Is that her last game? Yeah. Yes.
The Atlanta Dream game, where it all went wrong. The most alarming evidence comes from the recent matchup against the Atlanta Dream. While much of the public's attention was on the hostile crowd and the now infamous "You're in Atlanta" chant, something far more disturbing was unfolding on the court. A frame-by-frame breakdown reveals a concerted effort to physically wear down Caitlin Clark, actions that go well beyond the bounds of legitimate basketball. Look closely at the footage, really study it, and you'll notice constant jersey grabbing. During transitions, excessive contact on screens, and moves that resemble wrestling holds more than defensive technique. The intent wasn't to stop the ball. It was to grind Clark down through relentless, unnecessary physicality. Ryan Howard's defensive tactics were particularly over the line. She stood uncomfortably close during free throws, applied smothering pressure on inbound plays, and made contact nearly every time Clark touched the ball. This wasn't strategic defense. It was targeted harassment designed to frustrate and exhaust her physically. Then there's Brittany Griner, whose involvement adds another troubling layer. With a clear size and strength advantage, likely outweighing Clark by 40 pounds, Griner engaged in contact that had no real basketball purpose. Instead of using sound fundamentals, she initiated unnecessary physicality in moments where any trained player would have backed off. And here's a detail that has slipped under the radar. Coach Stephanie White's decision to take Clark off primary ball handling duties. This wasn't a tactical experiment, it was a protective measure. Looking back at the sequence of events, it's becoming increasingly clear that the coaching staff recognized the pattern of targeting and tried to limit Clark's exposure. That decision speaks volumes about what was really happening on the court. The coaching call. No one appreciated until now. Stephanie White saw the warning signs long before the official injury report ever came out. Think about it. You don't just alter the role of your franchise player, your leading scorer and primary playmaker, without a serious reason. This wasn't a coaching experiment or a tactical twist. White recognized that Caitlin Clark was taking a physical beating, and the officiating crew was doing nothing to stop it. What critics once called a questionable decision now looks like a calculated effort to protect her star from further harm. White's move to reduce Clark's ball-handling duties may have been the one thing that prevented a more catastrophic injury. While the spotlight eventually shifted to the New York Liberty game, where White attributed the injury to a specific moment, the truth runs deeper. That game was simply the breaking point for a player whose body had been absorbing uncalled, excessive contact for weeks. Clark's declining shooting percentages weren't a slump. They were a red flag. Elite shooters don't just forget how to shoot. Her form didn't suddenly deteriorate due to bad habits or a mental block. She was adjusting. Her mechanics compensating for discomfort and showing clear signs of physical strain. Anyone paying attention could see her movement patterns shift. More caution around screens, less explosiveness off the dribble, and a growing tendency to brace for contact. She was playing to survive, not excel. The referee problem, a systemic failure. Now let's address what everyone's been avoiding. The referees have been complicit in all of this. This isn't about a few missed calls or inconsistent whistles. We're looking at a sustained league-wide failure to protect a marquee player from targeted, excessive physical play. The officials didn't just let the game get physical, they let it get dangerous. And the league's silence? That's not just negligence, it's an indictment protecting the player, not just. Caitlin Clark was clearly being singled out for excessive physical contact, and the evidence is overwhelming. The footage shows repeated fouls, grabs, holds, shoves, and unnecessary collisions that consistently went uncalled. These weren't borderline plays or subjective judgment calls. They were blatant violations that would have been immediately flagged in men's games or even in other WNBA matchups. But when it came to Clark, officials suddenly developed a kind of selective blindness. This isn't about demanding superstar treatment. It's about ensuring basic player safety and preserving the integrity of the game. When referees allow one player to be targeted without consequence, they create a dangerous precedent, essentially handing teams a roadmap to neutralize elite talent through physical intimidation instead of skill. What makes this even more troubling is that it's not just one game or one team. It's a consistent pattern that dates back to Clark's entry into the league. Think back to the Kennedy Carter incident, an obvious flagrant foul brushed off as just basketball, or the countless examples of Clark being bodied, shoved, and bumped with no whistles and no technical fouls for unsportsmanlike conduct. These aren't isolated moments. They're part of a broader, coordinated effort to physically rattle her and push her out of rhythm. And how has the league responded? By downplaying it. They call it playoff intensity or say it's part of welcome to the pros. But let's not confuse toughness with abuse. Yes, professional basketball is physical, but what Clark has faced goes far beyond that. NBA stars get pressured too, but they're also protected. When defenders cross the line, referees step in. That balance simply hasn't existed for Clark. Even her body language in recent games told the story. She wasn't attacking, she was bracing. She wasn't playing freely, she was guarding herself. That shift explains the drop in her performance, which some critics tried to chalk up to inexperience, a league failing its star, and the bigger picture. Clark's critics pointed to her recent dip in performance as proof that she was overrated. In reality, that decline was the clearest sign that the targeting campaign against her was working exactly as intended. Teams didn't stop her with superior skill. They used sustained physical intimidation, unchecked by officials, to grind her down. It wasn't strategy, it was sanctioned attrition, and the league stood by and let it happen. That's where the hypocrisy becomes impossible to ignore. The WNBA has heavily leaned into Clark's star power, using her as the face of its marketing, push to boost ticket sales, drive media coverage, and grow viewership. But when it came time to protect that investment on the court, they failed completely. You can't build your brand around a transcendent player while simultaneously allowing her to be battered game after game without intervention. That's not just negligence, it's a fundamental contradiction in how the league operates. They want the rewards of having a generational talent like Clark, the headlines, the packed arenas, the social media buzz, but they've been unwilling to make the hard calls necessary to preserve her ability to play. The league's silence has been particularly damning. No public statement on player safety, no acknowledgement of missed calls, no indication they're even aware of the escalating problem. When Clark went down, the response was a dismissive, "Injuries happen," ignoring the sustained, documented physical abuse that led to that injury. The turning point. Clark's injury marks a critical moment for the WNBA. Whether they admit it or not, the league's most marketable star is now sidelined because they failed to protect her. And now they'll see what that decision costs them. Attendance, TV ratings, online engagement, it's all about to drop. And the blame lies squarely with league leadership. Worse still, this sets a dangerous precedent for future talent. If the WNBA won't step in to protect the face of their league, what message does that send to elite college players eyeing a professional career? Why risk your health and career in a league where physical targeting is tolerated and talent is neutralized through brute force rather than skill? The fans' role in enabling it. And then there's the fan response, equally revealing and troubling. Rather than calling for fair play and better officiating, many fans have celebrated the excessive physicality. They've called it tough defense or welcome to the league, ignoring clear fouls and blatant targeting. In doing so, they've helped normalize a brand of basketball that prioritizes intimidation over competition. The irony is painful. The league's biggest opportunity to grow mainstream attention came in the form of Caitlin Clark. Instead of protecting that opportunity, they allowed it to be bruised, battered, and ultimately benched. Now the WNBA must face the consequences of ignoring the warning signs and ask itself if it's willing to learn from this moment before more players pay the cost of ignoring the obvious. Caitlin Clark earns every point she scores, but that fact has been completely overshadowed by a troubling mindset that's taken root both on the court and online. Social media is flooded with takes insisting Clark just needs to get stronger or adjust to the physicality, all while ignoring the reality. What she's facing isn't normal physical play. It's targeted, excessive,